Okay, welcome to this edition of the Native News Update on this Monday, December 14th. I'm your host for today's program, Paul Demain. Many of the stories right here can also be found at our website at IndianCountryNews.com. Here are the news stories for the day from the Associated Press and other Native news sources. Health officials say American Indians and Alaskan Natives have died from swine flu at a rate 4 times greater than other Americans. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention last week released a study of swine flu deaths in 12 states. They found that 42 American Indians and Alaska Natives in those states died of swine flu or its complications. That was a rate of nearly 4 out of every 100,000 people in that group. American Indians and Alaska Natives have higher rates of diabetes, asthma, and other conditions that make them more vulnerable. The study is being published in the CDC's Morbidity and Mortality Weekly Report, and that's on the net at edc.gov/MMWR. Officials say U.S. Border Patrol agents and officers from the Blackfeet Department of Homeland Security reached several isolated ranches on the Blackfeet Reservation last week to check on stranded families following severe weather there. The patrol used a Black Hawk helicopter to reach several ranches more than 7 miles off the main road that could not be reached by automobile. The residents were safe, but officials say they later returned to some ranches with off-road vehicles to deliver food and other supplies. Blackfeet Homeland Security Director Robert Desrosiers said he became concerned after heavy snow and temperatures to 35 degrees below zero hit the area last week. Tribes across Montana are working to improve the tracking of sex offenders on reservations. Tribal members and Sheriff's Department officials gathered in Billings last week for training on how to create and improve sex offender registries. Many of Montana's tribes don't have a sex offender registry, but the Sex Offender Registration and Notification Act requires that they be created by this next July. The director of Fort Peck Tribe's Family Violence Resource Center, Patty McGeejic, organized the training session. She says the session will improve communication between tribal and state and federal officials. U.S. Senator Lisa Murkowski says Alaska Territorial Guard members whose military pensions were reduced by Pentagon policy change this January should see full payments resume by this year's end. The Alaska Republican says the Department of Defense told her the December check for the 23 surviving members, many Native Alaskans, will include a lump sum payment retroactive to October 28th. Murkowski said she prodded the Pentagon to implement the language in the National Defense Authorization Act that directs the military to count service in the Territorial Guard during World War II. The members were assigned to guard Alaska from the Japanese during the war, but their pensions were decreased in January after the military no longer recognized their service to this country. American Indians from north central Idaho are shipping 700,000 bright orange Clearwater River coho salmon eggs to a national hatchery in neighboring Oregon as part of their efforts to rebuild endangered spawning runs. The Nez Perce tribe will ship the eggs from the Dorwashek National Fish Hatchery to the Eagle Creek National Fish Hatchery in Estacada, Oregon, this week. This year, enough adult coho returned to the Clearwater Basin that their eggs could be used at the Eagle Creek facility. This is the first time in 15 years that the Nez Perce tribe is returning coho eggs from the Clearwater River to the lower Columbia River as part of its Clearwater Coho Restoration Project. Revenue from Indian gaming in Oklahoma has now surpassed Connecticut and now ranks second in the nation to California. The Indian gaming industry report for 2009-2010 shows tribal casinos collected nearly $2.9 billion in revenues in 2008, the latest year in which numbers are available. California collected nearly $7.3 billion alone. The report also says Oklahoma had the most tribal gaming centers and the second largest number of Indian gaming machines. The total revenue for all 442 Indian gaming facilities nationwide was around $26.8 billion. And the economic downturn has slowed the growth of Indian gaming in the United States, but the industry is faring better than traditional casinos, according to a new report. Revenues climbed overall by 1.5% last year, the smallest increase since a federal law regulating the industry was passed in 1988, according to the Indian Gaming Industry Report by economist Alan Meister. That was down from the growth rate of 5% in 2007 and an average rate of about 15% from 2001 through 2006. The $26.8 billion industry outperformed the commercial casino sector, where revenue dropped about 7% to $30 billion in 2008, according to the Meister's report. Experts say Indian casinos have the advantage of being dispersed across the nation, making them more easily accessible than casinos in Las Vegas and Atlantic City. And Scott Momaday is a Kiowa Pulitzer Prize-winning writer and scholar, but perhaps you're unaware of the circumstances that Mr. Momaday is now facing. Suffering from the side effects of diabetes, Mr. Momaday now requires 24/7 home health care that has drained his personal finances as well as those of the caregiver organization that had been subsidizing those services for some time. If you're able to make a donation to Coming Home Connections, a 501c3 charitable organization, please designate it for the Momaday Fund and mail it to Coming Home Connections at 418 Cerrillos Road, Santa Fe, New Mexico at 87501. If you prefer to contribute by other means, you can go to the ComingHomeConnection.org, where you can make a secure online donation, and we'll put those numbers and addresses up on the board here for you to see. And that says, best wishes for the holiday season to you and yours. Sincerely, Holly Youngbear Tibbetts, who is making that plea on behalf of N. Scott Momaday, the writer. And that is the latest roundup of news from Indian Country on this edition of the Native News Update. We want to thank you all for joining with us, and hopefully tomorrow when you join with us, we'll have a report from Alaska on some of the Native news going up on that area as well. Miigwech, and come back soon.